A while back, there was a commercial on Nickelodeon where it was trying to get kids to go outside and play. Remember what it was? Here it is.
Verb, it's what you do.
Verb, it's what you do. And it's what we're doing to our API resources. We talked about REST APIs, and that part of being a REST API means that each one of your resources that we can access, whether it be a router's hostname or Harry Potter characters, must have a unique URL. So we talked about the what. What are we going to be messing with? What do we want to interact with? Now, we're going to talk about what can we do with it? What are the actions we can take? What are the verbs? It's what you do, but what can we do? Let's talk about that. Do you remember how I told you that when we interact with an API, a REST API specifically, it's like going to a website? For example, say we have cbtnuggets.com. When I go to CBT Nuggets, I make a request. And based on my request, CBT Nuggets will make a reply. These two actions right here are the backbone, the foundation of any kind of API interaction or website interaction. Now, right here, without putting a verb, I'm just saying, hey, CBT Nuggets video. And CBT Nuggets is like, what do you want me to do? But that's why we have verbs. So maybe I'm saying, hey, CBT Nuggets, I want to watch a video. Get me that video right now. Get it. I'm retrieving it. And then CBT Nuggets will reply with, here you go. Here is a delicious video. Now, the main difference between interacting with a website and interacting with an API is that the website might reply with, media, or it might reply with HTML. But when we're talking about an API, let me get the nugs out of here. When we request something from the API, it's most likely going to be responding in JSON or even XML. That's the data type, and we'll cover data types here very soon. Now, let's analyze these actions. How many actions can we do? Verb, it's what you do. I just got that stuck in my head. I hope it's stuck in your head too. So let's talk about how you feel like crud. Oh, crud. Now, looking back at a website interaction, a typical HTTP website interaction, these are the most common interactions. We got posting, which, creates a resource. Get, we retrieve a resource. So we use get a lot to say, hey, router, what's your host name? Patch, put, delete. These actions we see here when we request something from a website correlate to a software developer's, view of common actions. And it's called CRUD. That's the acronym. CRUD. Create, read, update, and delete. It's a simple, easy way to remember the 4 primary actions we take when we deal with APIs or websites, right? Now I'm comparing and contrasting these two because while CRUD is the mentality, these over here, the verbs, are the actual actions you'll see within the request header when you're sending that request to the API. So how do these match up? Well, create matches up to post. When you want to create a loopback interface on your router, you would be sending a request with the create action or verb. They're often referred to as methods, HTTP methods. When you want to read something, when you want to get something, router, what's your host name? You'll get in it. Go get it. Get. I just saw that movie Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and it's all about westerns in the 1970s, and my hick accent just flared up. Anyways, go on, get. Update will correlate to patching and putting. Now, real quick, notice that in the definition of patch, we've got create and update. And in the definition of put, we've got create or replace. And in the definition of post, we have create. All 3 of those can be used to create. It's up to the API, which gets back to that rule number 4. Be consistent, be simple, be uniform. So they might say, well, if you want to update this, you're going to use post. Or if you want to update this, you got to use put. Or if you want to create something new, they have to define that for you. And you'll see that in the API documentation. Just know those can be used interchangeably, but for updates, we're looking at patch and put. So if you want to update something, check the API documentation. They'll say, oh, if you want to update this, go ahead and patch it or put it. And then, of course, probably the most self-explanatory one in this bunch, delete, matches right up to delete. You want to remove that sucker? Take it out with a delete request. What do you say we practice some of our getting and putting and patching and updating? let's do this right now in the API. Let's mess with the Cisco router. So looking at the router, I have it set to banner from our last example, but I'm going to change that to host name once more. And we'll get his host name. And we're getting it because we're using the get verb. And look at all my verbs. I mean, obviously, there are a bunch of different verbs we haven't talked about. The 4 main categories are the ones we care about. CRUD, create, read, update, delete. Create, read, update, delete. 10 times fast, go. So get, I'm going to go get. I'm going to get it. Now, what's great about Postman, the tool I'm using, is it allows you just to quickly test the API. It'll actually show you the code it's sending to this router. If I click on this code right here, I can actually see everything that I'm sending. Here in the request header, I've got the get, the verb, that I have the resource I'm looking at. Then we have the host. So it separates it out. What we see in that URL is being separated here. I'm telling it I accept JSON. That's what we're working with here. I know that when I interact with that router, he's going to send me back JSON. If I were to send him any kind of update, he's expecting the same thing. We'll look at that here in a moment. Now, if I want to update this, I need to send it back the language it loves. I need to send it back some JSON. So I'll copy what I received from it. Here's the host name. That's exactly how it likes to receive that data. So I'll go to the body of my request, look at it raw, paste it in there, and I'll change the name to verb, it's what you do. And instead of getting, I'm going to put, according to the documentation, that's what it's looking for when I need to update this sucker. So you in our crud. You're in our crud. Anyways, I'm going to update this. Bam. Oh, look at this. I got a bad request back. What a great, this is by accident by the way, this is a great time to talk about the request we get back. Notice I get an error code 400. That's an HTTP error code, and we'll experience that when we work with REST APIs. That's again how it's so similar to working with web pages or just interacting with the web. Ever received the error 404 not found, right? It means there's nothing here. If I were to change this to host names, it gave me a 404 not found because there's nothing there with host names. Now the error I got before, let me get it again, was because I have a missing element in my header. I'll fix that in a moment. But let's talk about those error codes we receive. There are three main types of response codes we're going to receive when we interact with an API or a website or whatever. It's going to be good. Sometimes it'll be like, great, you did a great job, things are looking good, here's what you asked for, and it's fine. Those are going to be the 2XX. Oh, I don't like that color at all. I'm going to change that. There we go, much better, black. When you receive something like 2XX, like 200, that usually means, great job. That was successful, no worries. When you receive something like 4XX, like we're seeing now, 400 or 404, 404, that's an issue with the client, which means it's an issue with us. Client error. We made a boo-boo, we did something bad, didn't work out. And then 5XX will be a server error. It's not me, it's you. It's this guy, and you know it's not something you have to fix, it's something they have to fix. But in our case, it's definitely our problem, so we're going to fix it now. So to fix this, I'll go to my headers, and I need to add one more header. I'm already telling him I accept JSON, but I need to tell him the content type will also be JSON. So now that I've added that header, when I send this now, 0100, that's interesting. I don't know what that is. It's not like in the kind in my JSON here. So I'm going to remove it. Try send it again. Let's see what I got back. It didn't send me anything back. Oh, 204. No content. The server successfully processed the request, but it is not returning any content. So if I go back and I get the host name, let's see if it changed. It sure did. Verb. It's what you do. So far in our game of Hangman, we've covered R, we've read something, and we've updated something. We've yet to delete and create something. So let's create something. I want to create a loopback interface on my router. So first I'm going to get a list of interfaces. I know I can just go to global and go to interfaces and get me a list of stuff. Oh, no, never mind. It's not in global. Interfaces. There we go. That should work. Much better. That scared me for a second. I'm like, what? I don't know what I'm doing. So I've already got loopback 1. What do you say we added loopback 2? Let's do it. And looking at the device documentation for this, IOXE, I can see that I need to send it in this format. So I'll just take all this JSON right here. That's what it's looking for. So in the body of my request here, I'm going to paste that. Type is loopback. I'm going to name it loopback 2. Description, we just created a loopback via API, which is sick. We'll make the IP address 2.2.2.2. And the subnet mask is fine. Okay, that's all I want. Make sure my headers are good. Accept content type, both JSON according to the documentation. That's what it wants. And my method will no longer be get. My verb won't be get. It will be post. And I'm posting to the interfaces resource. I'm changing that. Let's try it out. Cool. My status is 201 created. That's exciting. Now let's actually get the interfaces now. Let's get them. Get. As we scroll down here, fingers crossed. There it is. There's my loopback interface. That's so cool. I feel weird not looking at it via the command line, so I'm going to bring it up just real quick for posterity. Show IP interface brief. There he is. So neat. I just did things the old way, by the way. This is the new stuff. All right, we are at crew. We've created, we've read, we've updated. Now, let's delete. I'm going to take that same interface and I'm going to remove him. According to the documentation, I need to take the interface ID, which I'm assuming is going to be the interface name. So I'm going to take a loopback 0. I'm going to add that as my object. That's the object I want to interact with. So here's the full URL for interface loopback 0. And instead of getting it, I'm going to delete it. Goodbye, friend. And status is 204 no content, which means it's successful and we really got nothing to say to you. Let's see if it worked. I will get my list of interfaces once more. And there is no loopback interface 2. Said that weird. There's no interface loopback 2 to be found. We successfully deleted it via API. And we put the delete in our CRUD. Done. Verb, it's what you do, and we did it. In this nugget, we talked about CRUD, create, read, update, delete. The software developer's way to describe the 4 actions we can take on an API, or the 4 main actions. There's more, but that's the 4 we care about right now. And we talked about how those correlate to HTTP verbs, things that we interact with websites all the time. We saw how with a router we were able to create stuff and read stuff and update stuff and delete stuff. And that's the main shtick with interacting with REST APIs. You first define your object, the thing you're interacting with, whether it be an interface of a router, the hostname of the router, whatever it is. You can read it, you can update it, you can delete it, depending on the restrictions of the API. So once you define what you want to interact with, you then define what you want to do to it. Verb, it's what you do. Noun, it's what it is. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.